This is Channel 25 WVTT Olean. Now, from the Twin Tiers' biggest broadcast news operation, this is the 6 o'clock report with Jeff Andrulonis and Alexa Olson. Listen on News Radio 96.7 WVTT or watch on News Channel 25 WVTT television. WVTT proudly presents the 6 o'clock report.
Good evening, I'm Alexa Olson.
And I'm Jeff Andrulonis. Good evening. Controversy in Washington today as the Supreme Court issues a 5-4 ruling that upholds Obamacare, the controversial health care plan that's been put forward by President Obama.
Karen Kaifa takes a look at the law's road to the High Court.
Considered his signature legislative accomplishment, President Obama signed the Patient Protection and Affordable Care Act into law on March 23, 2010, after a sharp bipartisan battle.
Most Americans do not want this law.
The law would be heavily debated for the next 2 years, a key target for Republicans as the 2012 presidential race got underway.
He passed Obamacare, I will repeal Obamacare.
26 states challenged the law, and on March 26, the Supreme Court kicked off an intensive 6 hours of arguments, the court's hottest ticket in recent years.
There's been a lot of excitement here in the line today.
We love Obamacare.
Debate took place over 3 days inside and outside the court. The second day of court arguments would be the most closely watched, focused on the core of the law, the individual mandate, whether the federal government can require Americans to buy health insurance or face a penalty.
Here the government is saying that the federal government has a duty to tell the individual citizen that it must act, and that is different from what we have in previous cases.
The Obama administration's argument was met with some skepticism from the court's conservative voices.
Everybody has to buy food sooner or later, so you define the market as food. Therefore, everybody's in the market. Therefore, you can make people buy broccoli.
The Supreme Court's decision comes as President Obama enters the crucial summer stretch of his re-election effort, with domestic policy front and center. In Washington, I'm Karen Kaifa.
The president heard the Supreme Court's ruling on Obamacare at the same time that the public heard the announcement. This ruling will be a defining platform for the 2012 presidential elections between President Obama and Mitt Romney, as Mitt Romney has said in the past that he will repeal Obamacare in his first days in office if he has the chance. This will be harder now that the courts are behind it. Obamacare still has a long way to go, but this is a huge victory for President Obama and his administration. Congressman Tom Reed weighed in on the ruling and gave his opinion in a statement to WVTT, saying he respects the Supreme Court's decision to essentially uphold Obamacare, but is very troubled by the ramifications. He added this decision greatly expands the government's ability to tax and interfere in people's lives, and that this is bad news for patients, taxpayers, and the economy.
Congress may be one step closer to passing a bill preventing federal funding from running out on the nation's highway construction projects. Since 2005, lawmakers have passed 9 short-term extensions on funding, but now multiple sources say bipartisan House and Senate negotiators have struck a compromise on a bill to fund road projects for 2 more years.
We're starting here at the Capitol, where Congress couldn't pass a long-term transportation plan. And you don't have to go far to see the roads that Americans drive on aren't in great shape. Just 9 miles away, this bridge is missing big chunks of concrete. It's 45 years old, the average age of most bridges in the U.S.
You can see the staining of the piers. You can see where there's some of the concrete has popped away and is exposed to reinforcing steel.
Under there, yeah. Nick Roper is in charge of maintaining bridges in Northern Virginia. This bridge, like 1 in 8 across the country, is structurally deficient. That means it can still safely carry passengers, but needs a major overhaul.
The longer you wait, the more costly it becomes, the more extensive the repairs become. So hopefully we won't be waiting 25 years for this particular bridge.
Waiting is probably the one thing that every commuter is familiar with. Americans spend 4.2 billion hours a year stuck in traffic. This wait that we're doing right now, this costs each commuter $750 a year.
Mm-hmm. Yep. $2 billion, 2 billion gallons of wasted gasoline per year.
Put a grade on this bill for me.
I think it gets a passing grade in this Congress, which has not
quite past much.
And then there's transit, like buses and this subway. Civil engineers graded U.S. transit systems a D. They said it would take $260 billion and 5 years just to bring them up to speed. The money to pay for all this traditionally came from a gas tax, but nobody wanted to raise it, especially in an election year. And that brings us back here, where a long-term plan to fix all that crumbling infrastructure got stuck in legislative traffic. Lizzie O'Leary, CNN, Washington.
The Cattaragus County legislators voted to amend a law that would allow the legislature to exceed the new 2% property tax cap at last night's meeting. However, it was addressed in such a way that it was tabled for another vote at their next meeting on July 25th. The legislature exceeded that tax cap by about $184,000 last year, and it will now have to figure out a way to make up for that deficit in this year's tax levy.
It's going to be a huge night for St. Bonaventure fans as well as former Bonnie's forward Andrew Nicholson. The NBA draft is tonight, and we'll have details coming up, including our exclusive interview with Coach Mark Schmidt next on News Channel 25 WVTT.